Wow, that was wonderful to shake that off. Hey everyone, it's been a month. I think it's been a month since my last confession. So here we are. We're here and it's March. We're in the first week of March now. And it does feel like we're marching into spring because there's a lot of energy coming up in the collective, whatever you call that, the collective vibes. Is that what people would call it? Nowadays, I see people walking around outside. Little kids are coming out from hibernation as well, because yes, we are very much like bears and we hide away in our holes during the wintertime out here in New England. That's where I am streaming from. I'm broadcasting from New England. And we did have snow this year. It was cold. At the same time, it wasn't as cold as I expected. So we just heard Extra Golden. And the song is called Elando Gimaonge, which I hope I said it correctly. As we all know, I move with the flow of things, and sometimes I will get a phrase right and sometimes I get it wrong. If it's a new language to me. And on this channel, it's all about making mistakes because that's part of the learning process. And I will make mistakes, and that's just part of the ride that you're on. And I'm just putting that out there because, if you catch anything, be sure to highlight that in the comment section because that's what we're here for. Everybody, we're here to learn. Okay, so Extra Golden, what an interesting band. If you've never heard of them before, and this was the first time you've ever heard music by this band, then I'm happy for you because it's fun to hear them for the first time. I hope you liked it. I mean, for me, the first time I heard it, 2022, it was the summer of 2022. The weather was, hot New York City summer weather. Everyone baking in the oven, concrete jungle that is the city. And I was working that summer at a school. And I was one of the few employees of the school that was called to do work over the summer. So I was happy to do something for the summer. I had no travel plans. It preoccupied me, and it was lovely to see the children at the summer camp. And but I needed a break, and I needed like a mental break, at least a mental break. And just a heads up, you will be hearing some background noise, and that's coming from the bathroom that is right next to me on the other side of this wall. And no matter what I do, it will always go through, and we all have to work with that. Sometimes you will also hear my father play guitar in the living room, and the way that the living room is shaped, it's like a dome. So like a dome of sound that rises up, and it kind of comes over and around in it, and it will move down the hallway. And my room is right down the hallway from that dome of sound. So just putting that out there. If you hear it, it's not going to be bad. My father's a really good musician, so I hope it. If anything, it lifts you up a little bit. You got to have some energy in this neighborhood. To just keep you moving as well. So, I used to live in the city, as I was mentioning, and in the city, it was like a constant, wall of sound. Just a reference to one of my previous videos on Spectre and the wall of sound. But it was a constant wall of sound. with, just an array of different sounds all day, every day into the night. So, and I'm now living in a very much of an opposite reality in terms of a sound. There's a lot of trees instead of buildings. So the sound is absorbed by the wood. And it just sounds so quiet, especially during the winter and time, and when there's no wind. But now we're moving into more of a windier time. So when I open the window, you'll hear like, and it's lovely. I just can't keep the window open while I do this because it is quite loud. You also hear the birds outside. They live under the bush, under my window, in the bushes under the window. And so every morning you'll hear the babies calling out and for food, and everyone's just very lively. My neighbors being the birds. Most of my neighbors are birds. Actually, if you were to count, they do dominate this neighborhood. So that's just how it is here. Let's jump into Extra Golden. That's why we're here. And so, this week I'm going to get into Extra Golden, and I'll be playing their music on my Instagram. I will be, posting up as much as I can about them on my stories, and just like a song of the day sort of deal. But if you're not really interested in following me on that, well, you can follow just the rabbit hole that I'll be providing for you in this podcast episode. You either might be watching this on YouTube or you might be listening to this on Spotify. But if you're listening to this, I do recommend that you check out the YouTube link so that you can watch videos that I will be incorporating in this video, in this episode. So you just really get a more of a visual language as well, because there's a lot of information. As I say, a picture holds, 1,000 words or more than 1,000 words, really, just layers and layers upon meaning. That if you pay attention, you can really notice. And Extra Golden is extra golden in the information that they have layered into their visual language, and I'll be going into what I mean by that. Extra Golden is one of my favorite bands. Like I said, I only heard them not that long ago in 2022, and I was feeling tired, alone, overworked, and at the same time overjoyed, but there was still a lot of sadness in my heart, and it was a sadness that came from feeling like I was the only person that was working that summer. For one, my other coworkers, they had the summer off, and the sessions were short, and I was asked to stay for the full day in any case if anyone were to call for admissions. And that's the business of schools, right? So there's nothing odd about it. It's to be expected on the job, and I was happy to do that job. But you need to take some time off as much as you possibly can. And I was at home really feeling like there's no one around, like no one to hang out with after work. And I also it was so hot. It was like I was baking in a sort of very slow burning summer. Like nothing was going on. It was the same as it was during the rest of the year, because I was working for the most part. And I wasn't able to really experience anything but the same thing I had experienced in winter and in fall and spring. So what I would do is I would walk home and I would listen to music, and I would listen to my Spotify Discovery playlist, that they would publish weekly through an AI generator based on the language, words that you may have said during that day, things that you've been watching on YouTube. God knows, what the algorithm really inputs, but you would kind of get a sense that they were listening to you through your phone and through your devices. Not a surprise. We already know this. This is just the way that our technology has been, and these apps have been operating, and there's no problems with it so far. So I'm happy to listen to my weekly playlist, and I find some gems in there that I wouldn't have found any other way. So so much appreciation for the weekly discovery playlist, and I wouldn't have a lot of the music that I have in my library without it, especially during that time when I didn't really have the mental space, I guess, and the energy to do a search on my own in the physical world, because I was physically, stuck indoors, manning the phones and just being available for the team that was working over the summer. So first thing I want to say is I feel lucky to be alive at the same time as these guys. They make it look easy to work together in a world that seems socially and politically divided and at conflict. And it's nuts because we live at a time where we, the people, are more connected than ever before because we live in the digital age. This is a time of space travel and time travel. You can look at things from the past through Wikipedia, through Google searches, and people's archives that they share through YouTube, where people are digitizing. Increasingly, physical archives are being digitized. Sorry, I can't speak, but currently being digitized at a speed where now you can access publications and photographs, videos, and stories, oral histories that have been collected in a different format. Now you're able to access it online. So there's a sense of time travel and also space travel because you can visit these institutions online as well. As well as people's, like me, for example, if you're here watching this, you're currently in my home right now. So it's you're in New England. You're here in a home in New England, and you're sharing the space with me because I am very, excited to bring you in. I want you to be here. And I'm happy to be able to do that. And I feel blessed that I can even do that, right? I wouldn't have been able to do that without the digital age, to have these devices, that in a way I collected over time and had to learn how to use. So through the internet and through information on the internet, which is just another sense of it's proof, real proof for me, at least in my world, that your whole life can change through cyberspace, through the transference of information through cyberspace. I didn't go anywhere. I wasn't physically in a classroom or workshop to learn how to use all this stuff. I learned it all just in one place and tapping into the web of information. And this is what I gathered, was how to set this kind of stuff up. And that actually does tie into Extra Golden. It ties into them from what I learned about them. They wouldn't have come to be without the digital age as well. The digital dimension is mostly boundless. It has open roads and, metaphorically speaking, doors and windows to look into people's lives. And the people who are in this band, I think what may have drew them together was the shared sense of music and appreciation for making music. But a lot of the stuff that they produced together was built on the foundation of time and the history of music before the digital age. And but what brought them together was through the digital age. It wouldn't have happened without it. It wouldn't have also happened, without this stuff that came before the digital age, like people listening to music over the radio, and using radio waves, and also using more physical formats like vinyl and records and tape as well, and how those were being pushed as in traded in our global economy. I came across this one song, It's Not Easy. And that's actually the song that I heard on my Discovery playlist. And so when I heard it, I was like, okay, this is interesting. I was just listening to it and didn't really notice the album art. And I was like, okay, this is like, it's kind of got like some styles that are familiar to me in terms of like geographical location. Like I was like, okay, it sounds like these are sounds from somewhere in Africa, which is my ignorance coming through. Like I didn't know much about it. But then it also had the sound of like country rock music at the same time from America. And I was like, who are these people? So then I looked at my phone. I was like, okay, let's look at this band a little bit further. Saw the album art, and that was what grabbed my attention. The album cover. I mean, who were these guys? It's like a photoshopped album cover. Has these 4 individuals who their original photos are clearly not from the same photo. And then they were intentionally collaged together like a band playing in broad daylight out on some grassy like cowboy landscape. Probably somewhere in like the African grasslands, like the savannah. Like I didn't really understand where they were. It was just like looking at the photo and listening to music. I was like, who are these people and where are they? Oh, I see. They're a band that are not really always together, like physically. And then they kind of like did that and made it feel like they were physically together through the art of collaging their photographs. So, I mean, I found that really cool that they did that. And I also read a little bit about them on Wikipedia, and it was just like very vague. It said like 2 American men and 1 guy from Kenya, like that was, I was like, I'm just kind of paraphrasing, but I kid you not, look them up on Wikipedia, and there's just, that's their overview. It's just like 1 sentence. And so there's such this great mystery around them that compelled me to do a little bit more digging, because that just wasn't enough for me to like walk away satisfied. And I love looking for information. So this was just like a perfect situation for me to just dive into. I was worried about the future. I was worried about the future of the world. But I felt differently after hearing It's Not Easy and then the rest of the album. I felt more hopeful. I felt hopeful enough, just enough, that I picked up my friend Yilin's Blue Jazzmaster Fender guitar. That he was a very, very excellent guitarist, and he had a band, which I will link below in the description box for you to check out. But they're called Leffin, and Yilin, he had left this guitar behind after taking his own life. Was deeply affected by the COVID isolation, self-isolation, and social distancing experience. But I can't speak for him, and he's not even here with us anymore. So, but he did he did speak through his art and his music. So I will leave a link to his Bandcamp in the description box below. And his life is continued through his friends and the work that we put out in the world, because he deeply inspired all of us. One of our friends, mutual friends, Aaron LaRoche, he is an improv comedian, actor, and very talented drummer who used to be the drummer in Leffen. And now he is in a few bands that play live in New York City. And one of those bands that is just kicking butt right now is the band Squirts. And they had just won a prize at Baby's All Right. And I don't know more details on that, but I did see that they won money because he since then, from what I understand, just ran with the fire under us after Yilin, he left this plane of existence. But it's weird. Like he lives through us, and I don't want to go into it further, but I don't need to really, but it's just, it has left a huge stain on my life in like a good way, not in a bad way, but like it was hurtful at the time. We all had to grieve. And so, yeah, this jazz master Fender was left behind, and I didn't know how to play. I wasn't familiar with playing guitar at the time. Wasn't comfortable with it. I couldn't just like pick it up and start playing it. With other people. I couldn't jam out with people. It was difficult for me too, because I was self-conscious and I felt a bit insecure about it all. But here I am sitting, listening to Extra Golden. I suddenly get this wind of inspiration to pick up the guitar and like play along with them, because they were a jam band. And I just start kind of improvising and jamming out with them. And it felt like Yilin was with me, and he was teaching me how to play, because I had played better than I had ever played before that. So I'd like to think he was with me in spirit through the guitar. But yeah, Extra Golden, it's the music baby of two initially very separate entities. Kenya's orchestra, Extra Solar Africa, and DC-based American rock band Golden. The band formed after a chance meeting between American Ian Eagleson, who was in Africa at the time, studying musicology in Nairobi, with African musicians, Onyango Wood Omari and Otieno Jagwasi. Eagleson, he went to Kenya for a year to conduct research for his thesis on Benga music, so which is a jazzy, guitar-centric type of dance music that was popular in Kenya since 1960. They released, after their meeting, they released 3 albums with Thrill Jockey across 4 years. Extra Solar Africa, vocalist and guitarist Otieno, provided a lot of that information for Eagleson's research, and as a result, Extra Golden was assembled in April 2004 to create and record their unique Benga rock hybrid. Their music records are a labor of love. In the process of creating it, the band was forced to overcome a bunch of obstacles. They experienced these run-ins with the Kenyan police, corrupt police force, who would ask for money and extort them, and the effects of Otieno's physical ailments, because he suffered from kidney and liver diseases, complications from HIV. Otieno's health continued to deteriorate after the recording session of the album Okeoyot System, and he passed away in May 2005. Against the odds, Their collaboration produced the aptly named Okeoyot System, most of which the album was recorded in a single afternoon. The words Okeoyot comes from the Luo phrase that means "it's not easy," which is one of the songs on this album. It's a common expression used in Benga songs. Back in 2006, Pitchfork reviewed Okeoyot System as not particularly freighted with angry defiance, outward gloom, or self-conscious poignancy. Instead, it's an album that sounds very much like what it is. 4 talented, enthusiastic musicians playing together as a group for the first time, patiently working through ideas to determine a common musical vocabulary. And I totally agree with that statement. I drew the same conclusion. Their time spent in the sounds they made together bridges styles and cultures in a way that complements one another to make music that sounds like it had always existed, like it has a whole history and legacy of its presence on our planet, which is not an easy feat. And the way it lands makes it seem like it is all easy, when in truth, it never was. I encourage you to check out that album, as well as the 2 albums that follow. There's this balance of bittersweetness in their music, and it continues to give me hope for our shared future every time I listen to it. Thanks for tuning in, and I wish you an extra golden week.
Nyajondere puri soberano wichako Nduo kimara chinyale gondere no ringa joni